Okay, so let's move on to the next verse in Proverbs 20. We're going to do Proverbs 23 today. Okay, so in the display version it says, "It is to a man's honor to avoid strife." Oh, well, that's the literal version. So let's look at the display version. It is honorable, not literal, it's NIV or NSV, I'm not sure. So let's look at the display version. This is what we're going to work from. It is honorable for a person to avoid arguing. Or if you stay away from arguments, conflict, people will respect you. So we have honor both as a noun and a verb, and it's level 1, which you could verify by looking in TBTA. Like here's the verb form, honor here. To do actions that show respect and admiration, to honor someone in a ceremony. So we have two senses. So to show respect and adoration would be the right meaning here, I think. Okay, so but it is honorable for a person. We don't have that kind of construction. We don't have a word honorable. And here there's a problem with this. We do have a word argue, and we have a word avoid. So argue, argue, to argue with someone or quarrel about something. You can argue with someone about an event. Argue with Mary about who shoved somebody. Well, we don't want that here. We want this first meaning. Argue with something, someone. We don't have to specify about something. That destination argument is optional. As you can see here in the white box, the destination argument in the second example, John argued with Mary about the book, and you can see that book is the destination. That's in parentheses in the box up there, so that's optional. Now, this is a case where I think the semantic rules are wrong. It really should be the destination argument is who he's arguing with, and patient should be the about subject, but some of our things aren't probably the best defined, but we just need to be consistent in how we use them. Okay, so we can use this argue, but avoid, let's look at that. Avoid. Avoid, to stay away from something. So, you know, here it says avoids arguing. So arguing is like a verb here. Or stay away from arguments or conflict. Well, we have the verb argue, but we don't have the noun arguments, and we don't have a noun conflict. So I don't think. Let's see. In the nouns, nope, don't have conflict. So we can't do it that way. To stay away from, to avoid arguing, I think that means to try to not do something. You know, try your best to not do it. So I'm going to type something, and then we'll take a look at what I write. Okay, this is what I wrote here. I said people. So since the people who are honoring are not in the literal text, so you can see here it's marked as implicit information. People will respect you. So but it's the subject of the sentence. So I use our special notation. It's implicit necessary. And I'll explain this number 1 in a moment. So people, implicit necessary, will honor a person who tries to not argue with people. So every time we have a new verb, we need a clause. So This is a restrictive thing modifying clause who tries, and this is the argument of try. So if we were to look at try in the ontology, so here try has a patient proposition. You try to do something. So we need that clause argument to try. Try to not argue with people. Okay, so in the more literal, to avoid strife, it doesn't say who you're arguing with. So I made this implicit, argue with people. But these aren't necessarily the same people as the people who will be honoring. These are the people that he's going to argue with, could potentially argue with. So just as a reminder to the phase 2 person, I put 1 and 2 here, that these are different noun indices in the program. They're different groups of people. Okay, so let's look at part B of this. But all fools start quarrels or fights. Or if you are an insolent fool, you will constantly be arguing, quarreling. I don't know if we have a noun fights. I know we don't have a noun quarrel. And so it's going to be easier for us to express this with the verb form. So it has stubborn or insolent fool, but that's implicit. So we could say, but I think I'm going to say, but a foolish, I could say every, but it doesn't have that in the translation notes display. But a foolish person will constantly argue or quarrel with people. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll pause it while I type it in. Okay, so here we are again. I modified the noun indices. So people is the plural of person. So I made this indication that this would be 1, a person, 2, not argue with people, 3, but a stupid, foolish person, 4, will constantly argue, quarrel with people, 5. So that, you know, some of these people might be the same people, but like the people that the wise person doesn't argue with might be the same as the ones that this foolish person argues with, but we don't know they're the same. So all of these noun indices are different. So here I said, but I wrote foolish is a complex word. You can see in the how-to document, if I put foolish, foolish is an adjective and we pair it with stupid. But a stupid / foolish person will constantly argue / quarrel. So I'm going to pair this complex word quarrel with argue with people. And then with people is implicit. Like here it said constantly be arguing or quarreling. It doesn't say with people. So, but that's a necessary argument for argue. So I'll make it an implicit argument, and so it can be removed if the language allows. This is how it comes out in the English. People will honor a person who tries not to argue with people. This one's necessary implicit, so we use the single less than and single greater than. This one could potentially be removed in the language. Subjects and verbs we usually indicate are necessary implicit. But a foolish person will constantly quarrel with people. So I put argue / quarrel. I forgot one of them here, so I'll add that. We should also have stupid / foolish. So that's another complex concept. So when the consultant looks at this, he'll see, oh, quarrel sounds like a pretty complex word. Oh, see, but if you don't have that, you use argue. So that's how it works. So that's the third verse. Thank you for your attention today.